Too many elite arms for 4 postseason rotation spots. The Dodgers have an October pitching problem, and it could win them the World Series.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Harry Ruiz, that's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers. On today's show, Clayton Kershaw is joining Joe Davis in the Dodgers booth for the first time in an official role tonight. Dodgers begin a huge series in Atlanta against the Braves, and Ohtani-Glasnow is finally back on the mound. But first, Travis, how do you actually line up LA's rotation when the postseason arrives?
Yeah, this is a wonderful problem to have for the Dodgers, and I hope very much, Harry, that these things tend to take care of themselves do not come together with this particular one. But we're all over at today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use that code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10.
The Dodgers have an October pitching puzzle. If everybody is healthy, the Dodgers could have one of the deepest groups of starting pitchers we've seen in baseball history to kick off a postseason. And that's exactly why this is such an interesting problem, a problem that everybody would love to have. Why? Because there really isn't an obvious wrong answer here, Travis. Last postseason, the Dodgers opened their first 3 games with Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Shohei Ohtani. Then in the NLCS and World Series, the order became Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Ohtani. Now add Tarik Skubal to that group, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and Dave Roberts, he's going to have a huge smile in his face with being like, okay, I got to figure this out, but this is a fantastic question to have to ask. What the hell do I do here? I think it was Tom Verducci on MLB Network said, put names in a hat and just draw them up that way. That literally could be as easy as that, but there is also a formula there that I literally have an October calendar here during prep that I was like, okay, which days are off? When is game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the NLDS, and then game best of 7. There's something there to work out. Travis, do you have an answer in your mind on what the best way to put pitchers out there for the postseason with the guys that you have available for the Dodgers?
I think there are 2 answers to this question, and I think that they're both pretty good. Number one, I really, truly don't think it matters at all. I think that you could literally just put them in any sort of order that you would like, and you've got a very good chance to win. Now, clearly, that's not what they're going to do. They're going to give this some thought. But I think it speaks to the depth and the talent of all of those guys that you mentioned, that you could literally put them in any order, and no one would be like, what are you doing? That's how many good pitchers you have there. Here's the other part, Harry. I think it's a little bit easier than we're looking at. I think this actually is fairly obvious. Here are the 3 guys that absolutely go 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3. Doesn't matter. These are your first 3 right out of the chute. It's Skubal, it's Snell, it's Yamamoto. Those are the 3 guys that are pitching the best right now. Those are the 3 guys that are stretched out the most right now. These are the guys that have been as unhittable as anybody in baseball. So Snell, Yamamoto, and Skubal, in any order that you want to put them, I think those 3 guys go 1, 2, 3 in any order that you want. What happens after that, I think, is actually also kind of sort of easy. You put Glasnow and Ohtani together. That neither one of these guys, now maybe Glasnow is going to be a little bit more stretched out than Ohtani, because Ohtani hasn't pitched in a while, and Glasnow is going to make his pitching debut, not his debut, but it feels like his debut. It's been such a long time since he's done it, but Glasnow's back on the mound against the Braves today. I think you can put those guys together. I think you have to use Ohtani first because of the DH rule situation. So he's got to go, and he goes as long as he can go, and then you piggyback him with Glasnow. So you have this Frankenstein monster coming in game 4 and whatever you have, and you put those 2 guys together, and then you just start over again. You Snell, Skubal, Yamamoto again in any order that you want. But those are your 4 guys. Those 3 guys that I mentioned, and then the Frankenstein of Ohtani and Glasnow together are your game 4 starter. That way, all 5 of those guys are pitching incredibly important innings, and then you can backfill with whatever you need with your Sasaki's, your Lauers, your Robleskis, whoever it needs, and then your back end makes a lot more sense because your middle is covered by starting pitchers.
Here's how I would go for the NLDS, which is a best of 5 with a 2-2-1 format. For me, it's Yamamoto, Skubal, Ohtani, Snell. And here's why I like this setup, Travis, because if the series goes 5 games, Yamamoto comes right back on 5 days rest. And Japanese pitchers, they love being able to have at least 5 to 6 days rest and go out there and pitch. Usually for the Dodgers, when Ohtani and Yamamoto are healthy, they use a 6-man rotation. That way, Ohtani, he was pitching on Wednesdays. Yamamoto, he was Fridays and then turns into Sundays. But a day of the week specifically, that's their day because it's the way that they're ingrained from the moment they start pitching in their native country. But then once you head over to the NLCS, I'd actually change the order because even if they don't go 5-game series into 5 games in the NLDS, Travis, which is a really good possibility that happens, you would still go with Yamamoto on longer rest. But in the NLCS, I would go Skubal, Yamamoto, Snell, and Ohtani. And right here, you would be setting yourself up for Skubal to potentially come back for Game 5 on 4 days rest, which for him, compared to what he did in Detroit, where he could come back in 3 days rest, giving him an extra day in the postseason, that would have his body fantastically ready. And then if you go to a 6th game, Yamamoto would come back with 5 days between starts. And then Game 7, you have Blake Snell. You don't have to use Shohei Ohtani multiple times in a 7-game series to go out there like you did in the World Series last year when you didn't have 5 starting pitchers available to go in this type of scenario. So I feel that would be the best case scenario for the Dodgers. NLDS, go with Yamamoto, then Skubal, Snell, Shohei Ohtani. But then when it comes to the NLCS and World Series, which are 7-game series with the 2-3-2 format, go with Skubal first and then go with Yamamoto and Snell. It's nothing wrong with him going in Game 3 because that sets him up for Game 7 on normal rest. And we know Game 7 is all hands on deck for the Dodgers. But to be honest, Travis, I don't see them going any series more than 6 games.
Well,
with the pitching, I know it's unpredictable, but
yeah, I think I like your plan. It makes a lot of sense. I don't think that you have to worry about anybody's ego. Like, why am I not pitching Game 1 and why is my pitching Game 3? It's like, because you look around the rest of the room, it's like that guy's an all-star, that guy's an all-star, that guy's got Cy Youngs, that guy's a Hall of Famer. Like, nobody's feelings are going to be out of whack. I think you're right. I like how you have the rest all planned out and everything else. I think that what happens is you do need to plan for every series that you go into, planning for the entire series. I don't think that you can backfill it like, okay, well, we're not going to get to a Game 6. Who knows, right? Hopefully every series goes like the Milwaukee series last year. It's just bang, 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 and you're out of it and you move on to the next one and it's not a big deal. But what is far more likely is what we saw against Toronto, where you're literally going to use every single guy in the rotation. You're going to use every single guy out of your bullpen, and every guy is going to have to get at least one out that matters. And obviously last year with the 18-inning game, we got to see it all in one single night. But over the course of that entire series, it felt like everybody had a moment and everybody needed to make a big pitch. And I think that this is what they're going to have to hang their hat on this season. This is where they are coming in. Now, hopefully the baseball gods smile on him. Hopefully the baseball gods, when it comes time for postseason, they're hot as can be offensively. And guys like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Ohtani are popping home runs and doubles, and the Dodgers are scoring 7 or 8 runs a game. That's not how it goes in the playoffs most of the time. Usually these games are played, 4-3, 4-2, 5-4, really tight games where every single at-bat matters, every single pitch matters, and you've got to grind that rotation as hard as you possibly can, which is exactly what the Dodgers have been getting ready to do all season long. They have not grinded on their rotation at all year. We're getting to that point where you have to do it, and I think that they're ready. And I think that that's why they're heavy favorites to win the World Series again, because they can grind it longer with more guys than anybody else.
And it would make a lot of sense for the Dodgers having Tyler Glasnow pretty much set up as a piggyback for Shohei Ohtani, no matter if it's for
Yeah.
3 innings, 5 innings, 6 innings. Pitchers are creatures of habit. Heck, baseball players are creatures of habit overall, but pitchers specifically because of the way that their bodies recover, the way that they have everything planned out, and more specifically, starting pitchers. So I feel that it would be more fair for him to just be like, okay, you're pitching the same day that Ohtani is pitching. We don't know how long. Just be ready for whatever is thrown your way. Hopefully, it's fewer innings instead of more, because that would mean that Shohei Ohtani struggles with a long inning here or there. But then you don't feel bad if you end up needing multiple innings for whenever Yamamoto, Snell, or Skubal are out there, because you have Roki Sasaki available. You have Eric Lauer, who has been more than serviceable for this organization. You have options out of the bullpen that last year you didn't have. I remember when they threw Will Klein out there in the 18-inning game. We didn't know what we were going to get out of him. Edgardo Henriquez, you had players that you're like, we need them to produce. Will they be able to? Unfortunately, they did, Travis, when the big money free agents in Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates did it in 2025. The young guns came out and they delivered for your team. Justin Robleski, he'll also be a part of the equation this year. He was a little bit more unproven last year. Now this season, he's an all-star. So you're going to have a loaded, and I mean loaded, bullpen to be able to deliver for this team in late innings.
Hopefully, right? That's the great equalizer. I agree with you. I agree with what you said. I think that all these guys slot into roles that make a lot of sense. And again, right now, as we sit here towards the end of August, everything you said feels like it's on track, but there's still a month to go. A lot of stuff can happen in a month, and I'm knocking on wood right now, but all of a sudden you got to get ready to play a postseason series, maybe without your starting all-star center fielder. I mean, that's just, it just pops up. Stuff just shows up. Stuff just all of a sudden, bang, unavailable and out for good. It happens all the time.
And Travis, if you don't have your star center fielder that has Gold Glove potential, that hurts your pitching too.
Oh, sure it does. Sure it does. All of these things are interconnected, and all of these things matter. And look, I don't even want to put it out in the universe, but there's a world that exists where you and I wake up tomorrow morning and it's like, oh, blank is done for the season. He's unavailable. He can't pitch anymore. And it could be any of the 14 or 15 guys that you and I have talked about. It could be any single one of them. It's like, okay, now that option tree that was full of fruit has one less piece on it, and it could happen this is life in pro sports. It happens all the time. You do the Raiders, I do the Rams. It's like you have these teams set together and one guy drops out and everything else, the ripples on the pond go everywhere. Same thing in baseball, where if you take a piece out, if it's a piece of the rotation, if it's a piece of the bullpen, it's the piece in the outfield, the infield, wherever it is, we're dealing still with the Dodger catching situation where it's a bunch of backups along the way. You just have no idea what it's going to be until it's actually go time. Right now, flush with good options. A month from now, hopefully flush with good options.
There's going to be teams, Travis, in the postseason that are going to be asking, who the heck do I send out to the mound? And the Dodgers are one of them, but for the good reason, because there are going to be nights that LA will have more pitching than they actually have innings available to be able to throw out there. And that is a very different problem than the one we watched this team deal with in 2024, where they couldn't find starting pitching and they had to rely on guys that it was Yoshinobu Yamamoto, it was Jack Flaherty. You threw Walker Buehler out there in a year that definitely was far from being a good year for him. Now you have the embarrassment of riches that the Dodgers organization has been able to build with this roster. So let's close asking you, our viewer, our listener, how would you line up the Dodgers postseason rotation if everybody is healthy? Who do you want starting game one, and who do you want following him? Drop your take in the comments, hit us up on social, or call the Locked On Dodgers listener line at 2793-LOCKED. That's 279-356-2533. You can also text that number. We want to hear where you stand. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, LA's taking this pitching staff into a massive series in Atlanta. The Braves are trying to hold on to their position in the NL East, and the Dodgers, they're chasing the best record in baseball.
I was juggling a couple different apps the other day, and then I realized to myself, Why don't I just use our friends at Clutch Parlays? Because that is their expertise. Instead of going to multiple different apps to check different injuries and betting lines, I can see it all in one with our friends at Clutch Parlays. And a little bit of bonus there is they give you data to back their bets. Maybe you want to do a double for a star player that night. They can give you the percentage of what they hit on for that exact bet. And that's why I love our friends at Clutch Parlays. But here's the offer for you. Find the best line and build smarter parlays. Track every bet and make more informed betting decisions, all with clutchparlays.com. Right now, Clutch Parlays is offering a great deal for Locked On listeners. Your first month free on a monthly plan. They want to make sure that you get a real chance to try it out and see what it can do for you. Go to clutchparlays.com today and use code Locked On to claim it. Clutchparlays.com. Bring together live odds, line shopping, predictions, bet tracking, analytics in one place so you can bet with more confidence.
Are you new here? Welcome. Everydayers, you already know you're the heartbeat of this show. It's easy and free to help us out. Subscribe and like our content on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit up the Locked On Dodgers listener line at 279-3-LOCKED. This is the Dodgers' biggest test left in the regular season. LA is rolling into Atlanta playing some really good baseball. They're coming off of sweeps of Colorado and Pittsburgh. They're sitting at 80 wins. They're right behind Milwaukee for the top record in the sport. And they've created some breathing room over San Diego in the NL West. But now, Travis, the level of competition goes up, way up, because the Braves are waiting for them in Atlanta. For the Dodgers, this is a great opportunity to see how this team responds against a legitimate postseason caliber opponent on the road.
Yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. I think for me, I think this is far more important for Atlanta than it is for LA. I think that the Dodgers, like you said, have played much better over the last week or so. And I get it. Colorado's not a strong team. Pittsburgh is barely a mediocre team. But I think far more so than the opponents that they went 6-0 against, it was what did it look like? How did they play? What did they make good decisions? Did they do the right thing? And to quote Doc, it's like, did they play clean, smart baseball? Yeah, they did. They seem like they've kind of cleaned some things up. So as long as that continues, as long as the good decision making continues, I feel pretty good about it. I think there are two things that can happen. If the Dodgers win the series, whether it's 2 out of 3 or a sweep or whatever, it's kind of a reminder to Atlanta, like, look, you're not on this level. You're not ready for this yet. Like the opposite, if Atlanta wins the series, whether they win 2 out of 3 or whether they sweep LA, it's more like the Dodgers can say, yeah, cool, it doesn't matter. You're still gonna have to do this when the chips are on the table. Right now, they're not. I know there's some stakes, and I'm not saying that it's totally unimportant. But I think that there is absolutely no doubt in the Dodger lineup, in the Dodger clubhouse, in the Dodger executive suite, in the Dodgers manager's office, that they can beat anybody in a 7-game series. They know it. The opponent knows it. Everybody in baseball knows it. I don't think that same thing is true on the other side, that even if Atlanta comes in and plays really well, and let's say they knock around the Dodger pitching, I mean, that's good news for them. Don't get me wrong. It shortens that gap for that number 2 seed and everything else, but it's not October. It's not with everything on the table, and everybody knows that too. So I think that if the Dodgers can kind of flick them aside, really good news for LA. If the Dodgers struggle here, Atlanta probably feels pretty good about it, but it's not like the Dodgers are going to be looking around saying, oh man, I don't know. Are we going to beat the... They know they can beat anybody. So it's important. It's fun. Should be a good series. Hopefully they look really good. Hopefully they kind of go in there and look like they looked against Colorado and Pittsburgh. But the stakes for this, I think, are far more important for Atlanta than for LA.
Yeah, the Phillies were super hot. They won 9 games in a row. They got that winning streak snapped, and they made ground on the NL East, where they're only 3.5 games back from Atlanta. Meanwhile, the Dodgers, with the combination of the way that they played and Atlanta played, now they have a 4-game lead for the second best record in the National League. And with that, it goes a bye for the wild card round, which is important now that you have Andy Pages out for 4 to 5 weeks. That gives them extra time to be available for when the Dodgers kick off their postseason run. But Atlanta, like you said, for them, it's bigger than for the Dodgers at this moment. But at the same time, I go look at the way that the Dodgers have been playing against teams with a winning record. They've lost 11 of their last 13 games against teams that are over 500 right now, including Boston, the Cubs, Arizona, and Milwaukee. So I feel that this is a good moment to prove that it's like, hey, you go into a slump, especially the Dodgers. It seems like every July or August, there's always those 2 weeks where it's rough upcomings for them. But right now, everybody's getting healthier. Your club is getting into a better groove. Your club is getting those defensive miscues out of the way. It's getting the pitching back. It's getting everything, all their ducks lined up. You're going on the road in Atlanta where the Dodgers, they're the villains. Freddie Freeman is going to get an ovation in his first at bat, but then the rest of the team is going to get booed left and right. Go out there. Just go and give good baseball. Play clean. Do what Dave Roberts wants them to do. Play clean, and you'll be able to do a good job out there and give this team a bigger lead in the 2 seed with a month remaining once the series is over.
Yeah, I don't think they give one single solitary about what the fans do. The fans, as always, do not affect the players at all. They just, especially a group of veteran guys like this, they're going to keep it moving. They don't care. I do agree with playing better against the better teams. I'm with you on that. But the reason they struggled against those bad teams was twofold, in my opinion. Number one, what you said is just every year they kind of have a little bit of a stretch where it's like, it just doesn't look very good, and they just don't play their best baseball. And that's just kind of normal. The other part of it for me is, why did they lose to those teams? And they didn't lose to those teams because the other guys had better players. They didn't lose to those teams because the Dodgers got out horsepowered by the opposition. They got beat because they just were disengaged. They didn't play sharp. And I think that that's exceptionally unlikely to happen when there are stakes, when there are real stakes. Now, there are more stakes today than there were a month ago. I'm with you there, but we know what real stakes feel like. And more importantly, they know what real stakes feels like. If they were just getting beat, 4-0 because they can't score and their pitching was still pretty good, they were just sloppy as could be for about a month. They are not that right now. So I'm really optimistic where they are right now. I think they're going to be really, really good. I think they are present. I think they are kind of tighten everything up as they get ready to go. So I'm excited to see it. It should be a lot of fun.
Pitching starters for the Dodgers scheduled at the moment. Tyler Glasnow today. That will be his first major league outing since May 6th. It'll be interesting to see how he comes back, if it's going to be like Blake Snell mode where he comes back and hasn't missed a beat, or if it's a thing where there's a little bit of rust, Travis, because he's been out pretty much 4 months.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Snell, because the Dodger fans, listen very carefully. What Snell did in his comeback is not normal. This is not how it goes, where you just come up and you look like you hit, mid-stride Cy Young level unhittable, masterpieces after masterpiece. What is probably more likely is a little bit of rust, a little bit of lack of command, a little bit of struggle, and then also a whole bunch of good stuff along the way. So if the Snell bar is a 10 out of 10, I think that if Glasnow gets over a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10, that's a pretty good return to the rotation, because by the time, another 2-3 weeks go by, I think then you'll see the best version of Glasnow. But Snell, what Snell did in this return, it just defies expectation. He's been not good. He's been Cy Young level good, and that's
excellent.
It's not how it typically goes.
I mean, to look better than Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Tarik Skubal the 2 nights before, they did a pretty good job on the mound. That just shows you how good he looked out there. Roki Sasaki and his huge glove goes out on the mound on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have the pitching matchup, Travis, that baseball purists just are dreaming about. You got Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Chris Sale. It's like, thank you, baseball gods. You lined it up for us, and that's what we want to see on Thursday. 2 guys that are going to get Cy Young votes this year, and that's literally what we could be getting a preview of an NLDS and NLCS for these 2 teams, getting a game 1 between these 2 guys.
As good as it gets. I mean, it's simple as that. It's as good as it gets, that the Dodgers have the guy that they would probably pick first against the guy that the Atlanta Braves would certainly pick first. So, whoever gets the first guy out of the game is probably going to win that game. If one guy goes 5, the other guy goes 6, the advantage goes over there, vice versa. But this is what we've been waiting for all season long. It's as good as it gets.
And Travis, you said it. The Dodgers don't have to prove absolutely nothing this week, but with October getting closer, with opponents like this being the ones that you're going to be playing in the postseason, it has piqued my interest way more than what they faced this past week. And being able to sweep those 6 games is great, but give me opposition like this, and I'll be glued to my TV even more than I was often when it's just teams that the Dodgers should be able to run over in a uncompetitive way. So let's close segment number 2, asking you, checking out our show, what are you watching most closely in this Brave series? Is it Glasnow return, the Dodgers offense, the bullpen, the Yamamoto versus Sale matchup? Let me know. Drop your answer in the comments or find us on social. I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and on TikTok at Harry Ruiz_. You can find Travis on X and IG at Travis Rodgers. Next on Locked On Dodgers, tonight you're going to hear Clayton Kershaw in a Dodgers broadcast booth, not as a player, not as an interview, but sitting alongside Joe Davis and breaking down the game.
Make baseball season more this year. Well, you can still do it too. We're getting towards the end because on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade on every single game. Right now, the Dodgers are trading at 52% to beat the Atlanta Braves, meaning a $100 trade will pay out about $160 if they win. This is the best part about Kalshi too, right? Because on Kalshi, you're trading against live peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probabilities change, you can buy in and out of your position. So download that Kalshi app right now and use the code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. And contract trading involves risk. It may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Before we get into the show today, it's time for the Everyday Icon presented by Stance. As the official sock partner of Major League Baseball, Stance knows greatness isn't built in a single moment. It is earned over time through consistency, preparation, and showing up every day. That's why each week we're recognizing one player whose performance embodies all of those same qualities. Let's talk about my man Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Is there anybody who talks about showing up every day, consistency, preparation, and always possibly being there? That is the very definition of an everyday icon and an October icon as well. The Everyday Icon is presented by Stance. Check out the Icon collection from Stance, premium comfort, performance, and durability designed for whatever your day brings. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for 20% off your purchase. Stance, the official sock partner of Major League Baseball, and you can learn more at stance.com.
Don't forget to check out Pete Fox on our YouTube channel with the Locked On Dodgers postcast with immediate reaction right after the final out of every Dodgers game. Kershaw is back, this time in the booth. There are certain voices that immediately feel like baseball, and for Dodgers fans, Clayton Kershaw is obviously one of those voices. For nearly 2 decades, we heard Kershaw talk about pitching. We heard him explain what went wrong, break down hitters, talk about his teammates, answering questions after some of the biggest games in Dodgers history, and sometimes during the game with Sportsnet LA, being down in the dugout on his days off, and he was fantastic on the mic. But now, Travis, we're going to hear him do something completely different because he's going to join Joe Davis in the broadcast booth tonight for the first game against Atlanta as a color analyst. And that's completely different from him joining it in as a guest during the game for an inning, or him being on the NBC broadcast down on the field level on the expensive seats talking with the broadcasters. This right here is a different monster. You and I as broadcasters, we know how everything changes from one seat to another, and this is very intriguing to be able to watch Kershaw in this new position.
I think you said it really well. I think that I'm really interested to hear what he has to say. I really am. That in the roles that you've described, in particular, the role that he filled as a player when they would go down and he would spend an inning with Joe and Oral, it was always a riveting conversation. Like Clayton Kershaw is exactly what you're looking for in a broadcaster. He's insightful, he's knowledgeable, he's kind of funny, he's opinionated, and he's willing to tell you what he's looking at. And he's not pulling any punches. If he sees something he likes, he says, I like that. If he sees something he doesn't like, he says, I don't like that. And I think that's what we're all looking for. I think the biggest question, and you put your finger right in it, it's very different to do it for 9 innings than it is to do it for a half of 1 inning. That's what we've typically seen from him is maybe you get a full inning, but doing 6 outs is different than doing 54 outs. It is a very, very different. I'm not saying he won't be good at it. I expect him to be good at it because of all of those things that we talked about. He is as qualified as anybody could possibly be. He still knows the game as well as anybody. He's just left it, so he's incredibly familiar with all the players and the strategies, and especially when it comes to the Dodgers and the way that they think and the way that they operate and the way they go about doing things. But doing it for a whole game is different than doing it for an inning or so. So I'm really excited to hear it. I expect him to do really well. I love listening to Joe. I love listening to Oral. Everybody knows Oral's my guy. I love Oral like crazy, but I'm really interested to see what Kershaw brings to the booth because this is a different ask of him, and we've never seen it before, and I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, and Oro has been fantastic from his time in ESPN, heading now with Sportsnet LA, getting some gigs over with NBC whenever the Dodgers are on their network. He's fantastic, and I feel being a former player is a huge part of the equation for these guys, Travis, because they're not just telling you being an echo of the play-by-play guy. It's like, no, they give you their point of view. What did he notice that the rest of us didn't? Why is the pitcher struggling? Why is the pitcher in command? What does he see in the delivery from pitchers? Obviously, when you talk about Oral, we focus, and Kershaw now, you focus on the pitching, but the Dodgers have great analysts like Eric Karros, who comes in and he gives you another perspective. Or Rick Monday on the radio, he's incredible. And they compliment guys like Steven Nelson and like Tim Neverett, who are also absolutely amazing play-by-play guys in a great way. And Joe Davis, I mean, he's a young legend already in the game. The way that he arrived with the Dodgers when he was so young, and now he's the main broadcaster for Fox when it comes to the All-Star game, the National League Divisional Series, the NLCS, the World Series this year, with Fox having the rights for the National League. It just goes on to show the Dodgers, they don't just want the best product on the field. They want the best product on TV as well, for the fans to be able to watch the games and feel that they are given the best product because they do. And now add Clayton Kershaw to the mix for this game, it's going to make it even better. So I'm very, very intrigued for this game. It gives us another reason to tune in, like if we needed one, right?
Yeah, no, we're spoiled that the guys that we get to listen to are and like you said, I think what makes it so good for the Dodgers is that more often than not, what you get is Joe Davis, who is as good as it is, and Oral Hershiser, who's as good as it is. But Oral brings a very specific type of analysis to his broadcast. He's a former Cy Young Award winner. He's going to look at the game through the eyes of a pitcher. And as somebody who pitched, I love listening to him talk about the game from the mound out. But when Eric Karros comes in, you get the perspective of an offensive player. You get the perspective of what a hitter is thinking about. And it's very different than how a pitcher goes about it. And I love kind of the yin and the yang of those two guys together. And Rick Monday, when you listen to it on the radio, he gives it to you from an offensive player. He gives it to you from the perspective of what it looks like from center field. It's just a very different feel for the game. And they've got all of those bases covered. It's great, and I'm really excited to listen to Clayton Kershaw today because I expect him to be really, really good. We're going to find out when we talk about it tomorrow. I'm sure we'll mention his performance, but he's got a very high bar to clear with Oral and with Eric Karros because those guys do a great job. Rick Monday too, like you said.
And one thing to bring up, Travis, is I think it's going to be completely different from Oro too, because Oro, he's an OG. He's been out of the
Oh,
game
yeah.
now for
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple of decades. Clayton Kershaw was still pitching in October last year. So, and he was a former teammate of most of these guys that will be on the field. So that's going to give you an even better perspective of what it is that these guys do great, that they don't, and everything. It's a thing where usually like you get distracted here and there and you go get something in the kitchen, or this one, you got to stay glued to the TV to hear literally every word being said, both by Joe and by Clayton during this matchup.
Can't wait. I really can't. I think it's going to two really good teams, a little wrinkle in the booth. There's a little bit of stakes because of that number 2 position in the NL. Dodgers still trying to run down number 1 in the NL, trying to run down number 1 in Major League Baseball. So this is a really good series. I'm very excited for it to start.
And now, hopefully, this means we get a little bit more Kershaw in the future. During the broadcast last week, Eric Karros, it was announced that was his last game on the year on TV. So that opens up a slot. Potentially Kershaw sliding in and giving us some analysis now towards the end of the season. Hopefully, it's not a one and done. So let's close today's show asking you, what do you want to hear Clayton Kershaw talk about tonight? Do you want pitching breakdowns, stories from his playing career, or just his perspective on today's Dodgers, or something else? Let me know in the YouTube comments or reach out on social media. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary, the #1 sports podcast network. We'll be back on Wednesday to break down Tarik Glasnow's return to the mound as the Dodgers start their 3-game series in Atlanta in this matchup between 2 of the 3 division leaders in the National League. If you're watching on YouTube, stick around and check out the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network channel. If you're listening on audio, make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. Travis and I appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.